Oftentimes, a lot of newbies ask, how frequent should I change the water in my pond? In other words, how many days should I change the water in my pond? And in this video, I will answer this question with detailed explanations and reasons. The answer to this question, there's no direct answer or single answer to that question. How many times to change the water in the pond or how many days to change it depends on several factors. Someone can take a week to change, someone 2 days, someone 3 days, depending on the stocking density and other water quality management issues. And in this video, I'm going to give you 6 important things to consider, or 6 things that you will observe and you have to change the water in your pond. And when you notice any of these 6 things and you have to change, the water could be even 1 day, 2 days, or whatever days. Change it if you notice any of these 6 things. So please, if you are not subscribed to this channel, please do so. All we do in the channel is to share fish farming tips based on our experience and research. My name is Abdulaziz Issa, and I welcome you to Falco Aquaponics. Let's move in details. First thing is when you notice that the water quality in your pond has been reduced. If you talk about the water qualities, we are talking about the parameters that are supporting the fish to grow. We can talk about the ammonia. We can talk about the nitrogen. We can talk about oxygen. If you notice a deterioration of these parameters and you observe that the fish are no more enjoying the water, if you have a test kit to verify that, that is fine. And if you don't have, you can observe by looking at the activities and the behavior of the fish. So when you notice that the water is no more conducive for the fish, at that time, it is good to change the water. It could be a week or 4 days or 3 days, whatever days time. Change the water to avoid diseases and mortality. Remember, water changes is very important because if you don't manage the water very well, it means that you are going to have the fish being through diseases and mortalities. So that's the first thing you should observe. That is when you notice the water parameters are reduced. The second thing you have to change the water is when you overfeed the fish. When you notice that you have overfed them and you see a lot of the feed on the pond or under the pond, because sometimes when you throw it, the floating feed even, and when it soaks water, it sinks into the bottom. When you notice that and you think the overfeeding is very much, you need to change the water. The reason is that when the leftover feed decays and decomposes into the pond, it increases the ammonia level and it reduces the oxygen level, therefore making the fish to suffocate and even lead to mortality. So I have a comprehensive video on the effect of overfeeding. You can check that one out in the channel. So make sure that when you notice overfeeding of your fish, you have to partially change the water. Just drain half or more than half of the water and then you top it up to neutralize the overfed fish so that it will not affect the fish in the water. The third thing to change the water is when you notice there's a long drought or prolonged heat or drought. This is so when that happens, you notice that evaporation at that time is very high, and that applies to the fish pond water. So the pond's water will begin to evaporate. So for a longer time, you will see that the water level will reduce without even you being reducing it. And even sometimes, if it even comes with some dangerous gas, it might even affect the water quality in the pond. So at that time, when you notice that if the water quality is good, but the water level has reduced, then you can basically increase the water level and then you get it done and you are good to go. The fourth thing or the fourth reason why you should change the water is when you notice that the farm or the water is very thick, dirty, and smelling. When you visit the farm and you notice that there are a lot of dirt in there and the water quality has reduced automatically and the place is very smelly and very inconducive or inconvenient for you as a farmer. It is inconvenient for the fish as well because they don't have ocean. That's why they're living in that dirty water. So when you notice the dirtiness of the water and the smelling of the water, then it is good to change the water at that time because it is no more good for the fish. The fifth time or the fifth reason you should change the water is when there's a heavy rainfall and that heavy rainfall has washed chemicals or poison substance into the pond. This is most applicable to earthen ponds or ponds that are below under. Sometimes it might not be applicable to standard pond like this, but ponds that are dark under, it could be earthen pond or concrete pond, even the tapole pond that is put under. So when there's a heavy rainfall and then the water wash into the pond, sometimes when you observe that it has washed in with pollutants, it is good to change the water because the pollutant that it has brought into the pond can affect the water quality, therefore leading to disease and mortality. So at that time, you need to change the water. Then the safe time to change the water is when you're going to introduce new fish into the pond. Remember, as you are bringing them as new, they are stressed and they are weak. So they need a good water quality to regain their strength and fight their diseases. So it is not ideal to bring down new fish and put them into another dirty water or water that will not be conducive for them. So before you bring in new fish into the pond, make sure that you change the water in the pond and have a fresh and good water. So when you bring them, in as much as they are stressed and they are weak, that good water can help them to regain their strength and to release the stress in them. So please make sure that when you're introducing new fish into the pond, you first of all change the water in the pond before bringing them. The last and the seventh reason why you should change the water is when you notice excessive algae growth in the pond. Algae, even though the fish feed on them, it is good for the fish. However, excessive of them is also dangerous as the algae intends to compete for oxygen and other resources in the pond. So in the night, because the algae is also consuming the oxygen, then the oxygen level will be low for the fish, and that can lead to stress and diseases. So when you notice that there is too much of algae in the pond, make sure you change the water and that will help you a lot. These are the seven reasons why you should change the water in your pond. So when you notice these seven, either one or multiple of them, and you know it is serious, change the water. It could be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it doesn't matter. So that's why I begin by telling you that for the number of days to change the water, there's no direct answer or there's no generic answer to that. It is subjective and it depends on various factors. So consider all this. And I'll give you bonus tips. Before, when you are changing the water, we need to consider these things. First and foremost, there are times that you don't have to total change the water, and that's the ideal way. Don't total change the water. Do partial change. And that is drain the water more than half or half and top it up, depending on the intensity of the issue. If the water is too dirty, it's good you drain it more than half and top it up or all and top it up. But partial change of water is very important. The reason is that as the fresh water is coming and when everything is changed completely, that change of water is also causing thermal shock to the fish. So the sudden change is also dangerous. And that leads us to another tip. That is slowly introduce the water into the pond. Don't just pour the water once. Introduce it slowly so that because you still have small water remaining and as you are adding the water, the condition of the water will not change once. So it will be changing gradually. And then the fish, as they are in there, they will also be adjusting to the change. They will be adjusting their system to the change. And by the time you completely change the water, then they have also adjusted to the new environment. But if you just change the water once, it may also cause shock, and that can also lead to another serious implications in your farm. So consider the I have given you two steps tips. I'll also give you additional ones. Also make sure that you dechlorinate water especially if you're using the tap water or the metropolitan water, the chlorine in it is not good for the fish. So it is ideal if you can store the water for 24 hours or more before introducing it into the fish. That's fine. And if you can't, and you are going to introduce it into the pond, it is good you do the partial change, like I said earlier. Because if you just change everything completely or once, the chlorine will also affect the fish. So if you have been inspired by this video, like I said in the beginning, all we do here is to share fish farming tips based on our experience and research. So please consider subscribing to this channel and let's grow our fish together. So all having said this, yes, changing the water is also very tedious and time wasting, laborious, and very costly, especially if you don't have abundant water and you have to buy water. So that's why it is good to consider installing filtration system in your pond. That will help you run your farm without changing the water. And you can check our course DIY in the link below. That will let you roll down and work. Thank you very much for watching. And my name is Abdulaziz Issa.